This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I am with my new friends from ReWire. I got son Sachs by way of Hudson Valley with a background somewhere in the sticks of Colorado. And I got Walter by way of Santa Barbara, but he really lives in London. So this is a Zoom 2.0 call. So welcome to Halo Talks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Hi, guys.
We're psyched.
Awesome. So, in this COVID period where everyone's taking a break and waiting for things to reopen, I feel like you guys might be in a position where you could say, all right, I got time to catch up while it's halftime and I get my product done while nobody can buy it anyway. So, son, why don't you give your background on why you're pursuing this venture and then the partnership with Walter on the scientific side, and then we'll take a riff from there.
Okay, yeah, sounds good, and thanks for having us. So my background as an amateur athlete, I started in growing up in Boulder, Colorado. So that's kind of the mecca of endurance sports, and have really been in endurance sports as an amateur for the past 35 years. So hooked on it, and also a type plus type of personality. So I'm always looking at performance and metrics and how to get better. And then meanwhile, I've been in software development for about 25 years. So I was actually on the trainer a few years ago, and I had known about this science called brain endurance training for 4 or 5 years. And frankly, I was really waiting to have it come to market. I just wanted to use it. I was so excited about it. And I had this epiphany on the trainer, hey, this is how it could be done. So built a prototype, got a collaborator, who's my other co-founder, and started building it out and testing it with some athletes and using it myself. And essentially what it is, just at a very high level, is it's a hardware-software combo where you use wireless buttons and straps that you either hold in your hands or attached to fitness equipment like, Life Fitness on the treadmill or a stationary bike. And then you use your phone for audio or visual-based brain training, so you can actually work out while you're layering on additional mental load. And I will not steal Walter's thunder, so we can pass it over to him and he can speak a little bit about how that works in the science.
Here's the validation from the scientific advisor. You're on the spot, Walter.
Just a little bit background, I'm an athlete as well, and amateur athletes like son. And at the same time, I'm also a coach and a sports scientist, been working a lot with many different teams around the world, in Olympic teams as well. And in the last 10 years, I put a lot of attention on basically the importance of the brain for sport performance. It's becoming a trend that is going high and high, and he has a lot of scientific background behind it. So the concept of this brain endurance training that we're using basically was born when about 10 years ago, when I did a study where basically we proved that mental fatigue has a huge impact on physical performance. So we started trying to understand basically what's going on into the brain that makes the people more tired, and it doesn't allow them to perform properly. And starting from that point, we decided to use this mental fatigue concept as a stimulus to create a real type of training. And this is where this brain endurance training was born. Basically, what we're doing with this type of training is that we increase the resilience of people to become basically more prone to sustain high level of tiredness and stress.
So what's what just a couple of questions on that, so to our listeners, and more importantly, I understand what you're doing, but what are the key markers, or what kind of quantitative data are you getting out in order to say, okay, you're optimizing your performance, or how are you looking at the brain, and what information comes out?
Yeah. So basically what we do is we use a certain type of cognitive task that we know that has an effect in some area of the brain. And those areas of the brain are the same one that basically generate your perception of effort. So the level of tiredness that you have and you feel are generated from those areas of the brain. So when you when you stimulate those areas of the brain with those cognitive tasks that we're using into the ReWire app, what we're doing, we overstimulate this area of the brain. And how it happens usually with the muscles is that those areas of the brain becomes more adaptable. And then they become like more resilient to when fatigue kicks in. And we collected a lot of data in different environments with cycling, with running, with football, with handball as well, and with the badminton. They basically proved the point that if you can use this type of training on top of your normal physical training, you can gain a little edge into your sport performance. It doesn't matter if you are an amateur or if you are an elite athlete.
So when you work, can you disclose some of the Olympic teams or some of the athletes at the highest level that you work with, or just give us an idea of like what kind of people those are?
We've been testing like second division and third division soccer player in Italy, and I've been personally tested badminton players that they were into the elite Danish team. People that basically they won medals in Rio in 2016.
Gotcha. And then when you work with these elite athletes, you know, what level of mental toughness do they start at, and and how do you actually, what's the next level that you get them to? But like, is it like, do you get to? Is there a way to get to 100% or 110%?
Yeah, those athletes, they always strive to basically getting more training done and become more and more resilient. There is never a real upper hand because fatigue will always kick in. So it's it's a concept that you cannot beat as a human. But what you can do is that you can try to slow down the effect of fatigue. And the athletes that are already very mental tough, they're trying to find any other type of strategies to increase this level of resilience.
Sure.
And in the last 10 years, with the more interested into the neuro-performance and with the advance of technology that allow us to measure it and to train it, the athletes are start tapping into it. And they want basically some kind of tools that they can use to increase the load into the brain without increasing the load into the body, because the body is already enough. It has already enough training done.
Gotcha. So, son, how do you take, you know, all these very complex, you know, analyses and you know, interconnecting frequencies, you know, and apply that to the human body and put that into a software platform that gives you the efficacy, you know, to roll this out as a commercial product?
Yeah, exactly. That's frankly why it hadn't come to market yet, you know, when I started thinking about it a few years ago. And we do have a patent pending on a lot of the capability. Essentially, it's try to think of doing brain training while you're working out. It's hard to even imagine, right? First and foremost, it's a UI problem, which means a user interface problem. So basically, we need to have an interface with the buttons that are very ergonomic and easy to use, no matter what sport you're using, so you can comfortably do it. We need to have a platform that can support many different types of sports and modalities. So we have audio and visual-based cognitive training. And we need to basically deliver on all of the metrics that they would expect as athletes that they get already from their Garmin or from their heart rate monitor. And on top of that, we need to layer on all of the cognitive metrics. And literally at the end of a workout, you can see exactly where you're at cognitively, exactly where you're at physically, and you can track that development over time, and you can see those improvements and those gains.
Gotcha. So what's the actual price point that you're trying to hit? Is this for elite athletes or, you know, top 5% of people that, you know, take this seriously? Or is this, you know, a product that after you get it rolled out, you know, it goes to the masses and not just the classes, as I like to say?
It's a great question. And we actually don't see our first go-to-market addressable market as pros. We're targeted, you know, being an endurance athlete and having that background. Of course, it's no surprise that our first addressable market are cyclists triathletes and runners, all amateur primarily, though pros can absolutely use it. And that's a population of about 8.7 million. So at our price point, which is $288 a year plus the hardware, that gets us comfortably into a 9-digit figure revenue, even at conservative adoption percentages. So
what's the cost of the hardware? What do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, it's $53, $54 one time.
That's it.
Yeah,
okay,
not expensive.
How'd you come up with $288 a year? Is there something special about that 288 number?
Yeah, I mean, what I will say is that I'll caveat that number in that we are currently doing a lot of testing around pricing, but sort of the sweet spot, or the reason we came up with that number, is when you look at sort of, we're a first to market with this offering. So we're not a meditation app. We're not a training plan app. We're not performance hardware only. We're all three. So we need to kind of find a price point that sits in the middle of those different products. So if we think of, Headspace, that's going to be a nominal fee, whatever it is, $10 a month. If we look at something that triathletes are used to spending money on, like an aero bike, they're spending $5,000 on an aero bike. And you know what kind of ROI they get on that? Through wind tunnel testing, they're saving 60 seconds on a 1-hour time trial.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So that turns out to be about $90 per second that they have to pay. Now, Walter is being modest. He didn't mention some of the other studies. So if we look at the ROI on ReWire, in a study that him and his colleagues did, where they took 30 amateur cyclists and they basically trained them for 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
They did brain training 3 times a week. The control, of course, just did training on the bike. And at the end of it, all of them improve, which you'd expect, right? They're consistently training on the physiological level. But on the cognitive level, the brain-trained athletes could go 5 minutes longer on what's called a time to exhaustion test, which is very similar to a time trial. It's like an all-out effort. 5 minutes is essentially a 5x improvement on any hardware they could buy. So our ROI ends up being $1 a second based on that study, compared to $100 a second.
Well, I like when people, I think you're going down a path that is important for like the price to value, because people will pay for those results. And I'd say there's a surprisingly high number that they would pay on a per second or a per minute basis. So, it's interesting to talk to entrepreneurs like yourself when you say, what's the pricing model? It could be, that you're going after, the top 10,000 people, and I'm going to charge them, $5,400 and $28,800 a year, or, I'm going to try and set this up as a price point based on what people are going to perceive as a similar or a better experience than what they're paying for on some other app or some other technology. So I applaud you for like thinking through like how to price it. So in this time right now, a lot of people that listen to our podcast are entrepreneurs thinking about launching their own products. What have you experienced over the last 6 months or so? And what was your strategy on the capital side? Did you say, hey, look, I'm going to fund this on my own because I don't want to waste any time talking to potential investors until I got a full product and ready to go? Did you bring in some capital, other people's money, to give us some idea of like how you've decided to build, how it built this?
Yeah, absolutely. So initially, we self-funded, and having all the expertise around the software and the hardware, we were able to get a lot of traction building out the product to a beta state. And then we brought in 25 Madison as a co-founder, which is a VC startup studio that we work very closely. And now we're doing our first pre-seed raise. So we built a lot of software, figured out all the hardware, got some good proof points with beta testing. And then we pursued, raising some capital really just to support launch, because with this type of business, it's a very performance marketing heavy effort to get new subscribers. So we've also been testing for the past 12 months all different types of audience segments, all different types of marketing messages, and we were just refining and refining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I know Walter's, good-looking scientific advisor, has got a lot of relationships, but would you potentially consider bringing on either for equity or pay somebody like who's like your dream set of athletes to say like, look, if I can get this athlete or someone in this sports category, to be an advocate, this kind of takes any 2021 projection and 2025 and turns it into 2021.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we definitely need, pro and well-known athlete influencers. I will note that with our current beta test that we're doing now, the roster includes a world record holder for the race across Great Britain, a former world duathlon champion, 3-time New York City triathlon winner, some pretty serious athletes. But we do, a dream definitely would be to, get several athletes to jump on board, that are sort of top of their game in their sport. And we do have some confidential conversations happening right now. So hopefully we'll form some of those relationships.
As I like to say on the last broadcast, that, we'd like to be like the Wolf Blitzer of breaking news. So when you get one of those athletes signed up, we'd like to see if we can talk to you about, maybe getting the exclusive on that.
Yeah. Sounds great.
Back of this podcast.
If I might add something, I'm in conversation to put on our beta testing also some pro cyclists from Australia.
Nice.
Actually, I had a conversation a week ago. So people are very interested because in the last 10 years, I've been working very closely with different organizations around the world, British, Danish, Germans, Australians, and they all shared the high interest into this type of training. And they were basically only waiting for when an efficient product will be on the market to actually using it. So,
gotcha. Awesome. So in closing here, how do you view, the average health club, weekend warrior, potentially utilizing this? Maybe they don't have the same quantitative, measurements that we're looking to, elite athletes are looking to achieve. But if I know that I'm utilizing my brain better, maybe there's some ancillary effects against, future dementia, or, that I could basically be achieving something that's, 10 years younger than what, my actual body performance is, or how should we think about this when you guys go to the weekend warrior, somebody like myself who thinks he's still going to get drafted to play the NFL at, 48.
Yes, don't we all? So, I mean, just at a high level, we think of this as a full neuro-performance solution that's not just for professional athletes, but definitely for amateurs. We're testing right now with strength training. We're talking to some gyms about gamifying our product with some of the core metrics. And we also, I'm going to hand it over to Walter quickly. Just in terms of the offering, it's not just brain endurance. There's some other things that we include. So I'll hand that over to you, Walter.
Yeah, so basically the application that we're trying to put together is not only offering a type of training that boosts your resilience to fatigue, but we're offering a very advanced and integrated methods to monitoring your level of fatigue and your level of cognitive load, that you can use it on a daily basis to basically assess where you are at the moment, or how is your training is going, both physically and mental, or even just to understand how basically your working day is going. And at the same time, we offer a short-term solution in terms of cognitive recovery aspect, where basically you can use it, this type of this feature of the app, to try to recover from a long day of mentally fatiguing, demanding task that could be like a working or a physical training or a very demanding mental training. So the app comes packed all together with a monitoring system, a training tool, and also a recovery strategy aspect.
Got it. Right. So, well, look, we love new technologies that are entering into the sector, make people better. I think the better people get, the more they become an evangelist and advocate for living a healthier, active lifestyle. So appreciate what the work you guys are putting in. So, son, you got any final closing quotes here that you either live by, think about when you change a screensaver for us, or what have you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength."
Great. Yeah, I think somebody was telling me the other day, because I'm practicing some field goal kicking while I got this time off. And, his response to me was, visualize it. But it sounds like, visualizing to what you guys are, maybe like, I don't know, like an ant versus like a bear. It's like, yeah, okay, visualize and keep your eyes closed. That might help a little, but let me actually show you what's really going to work for an elite athlete. So look, hey guys, great to meet you. Look forward to getting the breaking news update on the on who we're bringing on as an elite athletes as part of the mix here, and happy to help on the distribution and the messaging when at the appropriate time.
Fantastic.
It was great. Thank you very much.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Thanks, guys. Good work.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Later. This is Pete Moore. As you know, I am a big believer in personal development. I got a time-saving opportunity here for you, recommending Dan Millman's 4 Purposes of Life. Go to audible.com/Halo Talks. You want to register there, get a free audiobook. It's $14.95 a month thereafter, giving you things that I do to make myself better, and hopefully it makes you better. Go Halo. Let's play to win.